Today we will install pfSense in our ESXi environment, and we will use that firewall for all our VMs to route traffic through. So to start that, we uploaded the image into our data store, which is here. And now we will create a virtual machine with our pfSense. So to do that, we'll just call it pfSense firewall. We'll select ESXi 8.0 virtual machine, guest family, other, and FreeBSD 64-bit, as pfSense is based on ESXi, FreeBSD 11, if I'm not mistaken. This shouldn't affect much, but let's go and continue with this. So our data store has roughly 900 gigabytes capacity. So let's do this. We'll assign 2 CPUs with 2 gigabytes of RAM. We will assign 60 gigabytes of hard disk space. We will use tick provision for pfSense because it complains about thin provision for some reason. So previously we configured a couple of VLANs, but what we will do is we will use external access VLAN, which would be your WAN interface on your in your environment. In my environment, that's VLAN 601. And we will also choose the ISO image that we uploaded earlier. And now we will add an additional adapter for our business network and another one for our DMZ. So with that said, make sure that all of them are connected and click next. Confirm that all of it is correct and finish. So now the VM is created and we can actually start it. So let's do the basic install of the pfSense. Okay, first step is to accept the EULA, and we will continue with installing AutoZFS and proceed with installation. Yes. Stripe, no redundancy because this is a virtual machine, so we don't care about that. Because we will be taking care of backups through our backup system. So choose the disk and click OK. Choose yes and wait for the install to finish. Okay, now the install is complete, so we can reboot the VM. Okay, let's see what's happening. Uh, so it's asking us for the WAN interface name or A for auto deduction. So we will choose VMX 0. Let me just check what my IP addressing scheme is. So let's do this. Okay. So, da, da, okay. So VMX 0 and LAN interface will be VMX 1. This is our business network. And VMX 2 will be is our DMZ. It's called optional one. Here we will change that once we're inside of the web interface of pfSense. Okay, yes. So it picked up an IP address in the WAN interface from the 198.6 subnet. We can change that in the future if we want, but we can also leave it as default, as provided by DHCP. So one thing to notice here is that web interface for pfSense is, if I'm not mistaken, usually available only through LAN interface. So in our case, that will not actually work as intended because uh, in this environment, we can only access 10.198.6 network or WAN interface, which will not allow us because WAN interface does not allow web GUI access by default. LAN interface, on the other hand, has a default 192.168.1/24 or 1.0/24 subnet, and we want to change that. So we're going to change the LAN, so IP address. So we're going to choose option number 2, and once again, number 2. And we're going to say configure IPv4 address LAN interface via DHCP. No. Enter the new. So we're going to choose 110.198.1. And we're going to use /24 for the size. for LAN, press enter for none. Okay. We're not going to configure DHCP here. No. None. Do you want to? We're going to enable DHCP on a LAN. Yes. Enter the start address of the IPv4 client address space. So we're going to say 192.198.128.201. And 198.128.220. So the reason why I'm doing this is because we're mostly going to be using static IP addresses in our lab environment, but we also want to have DHCP enabled so that we can provide new installs with IP addressing. And I only need 20 addresses or so to do that because we're going to use much less. So basically addresses from 1 to 200 will be statically assigned, 201 to 220 will be DHCP range, which is just temporary because all of our computers will have statically assigned IP addresses. So that should be it. Okay. No, we're going to use HTTPS. And now it says that our web interface is available at HTTPS 10.198.128.1, which is great, but we still can't access it because we don't, since this is an internal network, we need to have a computer inside of that internal network. So previously we installed Debian VM, but because I had to rebuild this ESXi lab, I no longer have it. So what I will do is I will pause this video and install Debian VM, and that Debian VM will be part of the LAN network. And from there, we should be able to access the web interface for pfSense. So let's pause this and install Debian first. Steps to do that are in one of the previous videos. We are going to install Debian Bookworm, which is the latest stable version of Debian, and I'll get back to you once that is done. Okay, and we're back. So this is my Debian desktop, and from here we should be able to access you should be able to access the web interface of pfSense. As you can see, we were given an IP address by pfSense DHCP server, but because this is an isolated environment, we have no access to the internet at the moment. So what we will do is we will log into pfSense, and from there we will configure a basic routing so that all users from business and DMZ can access the internet. So to do that, we will log into pfSense. Okay, to do let's do this. We're not going to save. So this is the initial setup wizard. It's complaining about the default password. We will change that later on. So, okay, next. We're going to call this host name pf firewall ntg dot demo dot declare.com. Oh, sorry. I'm actually going to use this. We're going to use Cloudflare and Google DNS on the firewall itself. Okay. Allow DNS servers to be overridden by DHCP when we're going to disable that because we want to use these two DNS servers exclusively. So click next. We're going to leave that as it is for now. My time zone is ETC, so that's good. Configure WAN interface. This was already pre-configured. So we're going to continue using DHCP on the WAN interface. If you need to, you can always use static IP address in the WAN interface. So, okay. Click next. LAN interface is already pre-configured, but we did that in the CLI. This is okay. Admin password, we're going to change it to something else. Save. And we're going to reload the configuration. Okay, let's check for updates. Okay, it's retrieving info. Okay, and it seems that the update has found that there are no updates. So at this point, we have a fully updated version of our firewall. So the first thing that we will do is we will go under our interfaces and we will rename them so that we know what we are working with. Okay. We're going to save this and apply changes. Next one will be our up one. We're going to enable that interface and we're going to call it DMZ. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we still need to see static IP. I missed that. So I'm going to go with 10.8.129.0 with actually 1, and we're going to use /24 as well. There will be no upstream gateway for this. We do not want to block private networks because this is a private network range. So let's do save and apply changes. While we're doing that, let's take a look at WAN. Make sure that we have all the configuration as intended. So we don't want, actually, you know what? We're going to disable this and this In our case, because we are using private address range on the WAN interface as well, if you're connecting your PFSense directly to your ISP and it provides a public IP, then you can do the block private networks. Otherwise, you do not want to block private networks. Okay, save and apply changes. Okay, so now under firewall, we want to take a look at the rules. No rules are currently defined for this interface. Okay, so let's take a look at the business interface. So basically anything with the source, any source, destination is a business address. This is an anti-lockout rule. Then business net is the whole network to any destination, default allow LAN to any rule. So this will allow any traffic from LAN to go to the outside. And finally, we want to do the same thing with DMZ. We want to select any protocol for now. We can always filter that later, but for now, we're just going to allow all traffic just to get the internet. So destination any, we're going to log the packets, allow BMZ. For some reason, my OBS stopped recording, so I'm just going to show you what I did. Basically, we created a new rule to allow all traffic to pass from DMZ to any destination. This is definitely not something that you want to do in real environments like production or homelab, but this is what will get us started. So for now, we're just going to allow all traffic, and after we set everything up, we're going to limit the traffic to only needed IP addresses and services. We're also logging all the packets, and that's about it. So for that is what the rule is all about. And as for NAT, there is no port forwarding, but there are automatically created outbound rules. We're going to use hybrid outbound NAT rule generation. So by default, all rules are already created for all existing networks. So in this case, 128.0/24 and 129.0/24, which are our business and DMZ respectively. And as you can see, it is translated into WAN address of the firewall. So that actually gives us internet access. But because there is no working DNS server, we can actually get to the internet via IP addresses, but not via names, which we would use here, as I showed earlier. So that is not working. And this is something that we will work on in the next video when we will set up a DNS server. And at that point, we should be good to go when it comes to internet access from our environment behind the PFSense server, firewall, pardon me. And that is it for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll continue in the next video.